Want to live in France for a year? This is how we got our visa and how it changed everything.
We wanted to live somewhere in Europe for over 90 days, and this France visa allowed us to do that. Now, we love anything in the Mediterranean area. You have Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Croatia, gorgeous countries, and France kind of checked that checkbox for us where we could live comfortably between any of those countries so that we could travel in between those borders at any time we wanted.
We didn't want to be limited to 90 days. That's the main point. All of those countries would have made us happy, but we just wanted to be able to stay longer than the 90 days. And so when we were looking into Portugal and looking into their visas, back when we were thinking about snowbirding every year, they had a golden visa. The names changed, but you could buy property and it would allow you to stay longer than 90 days and visit other countries as well.
Right. She would let me buy an Italian property for $1. I was really hoping to get a villa. And then she said, you don't want to fix up an old house.
It wasn't going to happen. And it wasn't going to be a euro. So I looked into Italy, though, because we did want to go to Italy. And so I started looking into all the different visas that were available to retirees. They're not all called retirement visas, but you're looking for that visa that says, I'd like to come to the country and stay for a period of time and not work. And so the Italy visa that existed, there were a couple things that shied us away. And one of them was, before you applied for the visa, you needed to already have an accommodation and a lease for this accommodation. So if they refused the visa, you were stuck under a contract of a lease that you couldn't get out of. And that just made no sense. And I didn't even get past that when I found out that if you resided in one of the towns down in the south, and if you were approved, you would only pay 7% tax for certain things and for certain incomes, I should say.
And since we had just sold our house, we were going to be taxed this year from the US. And if you travel overseas for a long period of time, become a visa resident, you're going to be taxed in that country as well. So you want to make sure that whatever tax implications.
You want to
make sure that any tax
implications.
Maybe I'll just let you say it.
You want to be sure that any tax implications don't affect us negatively.
That's right.
And so we were already going to have to deal with the capital gains back in the US, and we just wanted to find somewhere, at least for our first year, that wasn't going to affect or have anything to do with the sale of our house in the US. And so in Italy, not only do you have that 7% if it was a town in the southern part, but any other town it could be up to 40%. It was a different tax rate. And I thought, well, that's just maybe another year, maybe it'll work out for us. So I moved on from Italy and went and looked into Spain. We'd already decided that it wasn't going to be Portugal. And besides, Portugal had a special implemented thing that if you signed up, it gave expats a benefit for 10 years, but they did away with that in 2024 unless you were already on the plan. And so that wasn't going to work out for us either. And so they were going to tax us. And then Spain was going to try and take those capital gains and tax you. I think it was 30%. Spain, the global income is taxed if you're a resident. U.S. pensions and dividends can be taxed locally.
Double taxing almost in a way.
And so that wasn't the goal. And in my research for Italy and Spain and Portugal, France popped up, and people were talking about France and how the tax treaty with the U.S. was just amazing and great for U.S. expats. And so I started to look into that. And so that's how we landed on France. I mean, not only is it a beautiful country and a country we enjoy visiting, but it wasn't going to try and take a percentage of the sale of our home.
Right. It wasn't going to double tax us, and it wasn't even going to tax us if we could prove that we paid taxes in America.
And in the future, when we do have access to our 401k and our pensions and our Social Security, they don't tax those either.
Same thing applies. If you take money out from your 401k accounts and you claim that on your taxes, you do not have to pay again in France. You can
no double tax. You show them that you've already paid, and you get a credit. That's how it works. You get a credit. And so France wins.
Yeah.
Shucks.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. And so I was not at all appalled by eating croissants every single day out on a cafe with a nice cappuccino. Oh my God.
At
This
first,
was the best.
to be fair, the only reason France wasn't our top choice was the language barrier.
Right.
I speak Spanish, so Spain was a simple. Portuguese, not exactly, but we could still get by. And I somewhat understand Italian way more than I understand French.
Yeah,
So
French is hard.
it had nothing to do with how wonderful the country is or visit. I mean, we visited before, and we've been to Toulon,
Right.
we'd been to Paris already.
We've gotten by
Cassis.
just fine speaking English, but we knew if we were going to start slow traveling and be here for more than a month,
We wanted to,
we wanted to immerse ourselves in that language, and so we
We're
started
doing-
teaching ourselves.
and we
So
are.
I advise and highly suggest that everyone learn just basic French when they come. And
Yes, most
spend
definitely.
any time in any country. Learn
In
the
any
basics.
country, learn the basics. And so the next step was to get this visa. And in order to get the visa, we needed to apply for the visa. So the visa that made the most sense in France is called the VLS-TS visitor visa. The visitor
mouthful.
the visitor visa is specific for the needs of a retiree where you're promising not to work and you just want to stay longer than the 90 days. And you could actually get a VLS-T visitor visa if you wanted to just say 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. Ours was specific for over a year, where you're letting them know that you're considering staying there for the future. That's the one we applied for. And it wasn't very difficult, to be fair. It was some paperwork that needed to be put together. There's always
a lot of document wrangling, a lot of document research that you have to put together. But it's basically 10 things.
the quick checklist. Oh, first you have to apply it for the France Visa's website.
Get your account.
Get your account at France Visa's website. And there's a little tip about that. When you fill out the application, it's not very complex, very simple. Once you fill out the application, you're going to get a reference number. In this application, you also need to choose
Location.
sorry, I forgot the acronym, what TLS contact office you want to make your appointment at, where you're going to turn in all of your documentation. And if you choose a location, let's just say Atlanta, and you submit your France Visa's application, and then when you go to make the appointment on the TLS contact website and they don't have any availability, you don't have the ability to go back into the France Visa's website and change the location where you want to make that appointment. So your best bet is to fill out the France Visa's application. You're going to get a reference number, and don't submit.
So you make your Visa account, right? That's what you're saying?
Make your France
And
Visa's
then you
account.
bring up the appointment of the city that you want to make your appointment in, and you wait to see if you can get your appointment, because then you'll have your reference number from your Visa account. But don't press go on your Visa account yet until you get your appointment set up.
On the TLS contact website, 2 separate websites. And so here's what happened to us. So that was the first advice we want to give, is don't press submit on the France Visa's website. You take that reference number that's given, and you're going to go to the TLS contact website and you're going to look for an appointment. When you go into the TLS contact website, it directs you on a path, a flow that puts the individual in a group. So you put in your information as an individual and you put yourself in a group. And so since there are 2 of us, we put ourselves as individuals into this group. And the idea is we're going to go make an appointment.
We're going to do it together.
In this group.
One after another, or together.
Or at the same time, because we're a group. And there could be an entire family that's applying, so it made sense to us. It's a group. Well, there were no appointments, and no appointments would show up. And there was one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, oh, I'm awake. Let me go try and do it in the middle of the night, because maybe it was a time difference thing.
Yeah.
And so I did. And there was only this one appointment at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and you had to pay extra for it. So I knew something was off. So when I woke up that day, I went researching to find out like how, you need to make the appointment because you need the visa before you can leave. And we've already purchased flights. And so I called this number that I found, and it was a 305, which is a Miami area code. And I called and I explained to the gentleman that answered that I couldn't find any appointments. And we got to the point where he figured out that it's because we were in a group. And he said that you need to take yourself out of the group. And I found out while I was on the phone that I couldn't do that myself, that he needed to do that for me. But by the way, he was about to hang up before he
Even did that.
Right before he even did that. And I was trying to do it while on the phone, thankfully, because I said, I'm trying to do it right now and I can't do it. And so he's like, oh, I need to do that. And so he pulled us out of the group and now we were individuals again. And I have to tell you, immediately, every appointment pulled, I mean, there were tons all day, every day, pick your time. And so what we did was we just made sure to pick the times. It was like a 10-minute
So individual
window.
appointments now.
Yeah.
One right after another. They do them every 15 minutes. So
it was 10 or 15.
it was like a 12:15 and a 12:30, easily back-to-back meetings for us.
And so now we're very excited. We have our appointments, we have our francevisa application, but now we have to make sure we put all of the documents together. And this is what you need. You need a copy of a U.S. passport. There was a question about what they want, all the pages. What they really want are all the pages that have any stamps on them and the pages of your passport of identification and any page that has a visa stamp in it. It doesn't have to be the hundreds of pages in the passport book if they're blank. That at least was the case for us. We had a brand new passport and it had all of the blank pages and I did not make copies and that was not a problem. Then you also have to get these passport photos, but they're a different size. They're not US passport size. It's a special size that they use for France visas. And we were able to do that at a company called Photo Aid on our phones. We just took a picture on our phones and they were able to not only email them digitally to us, but they were able to print them and send them to us in the mail. That was simple, except for the fact that mine never arrived in the mail. Who knows what happened? But I was able to go to CVS and print them because I had them digitally. So you can still just get them digitally and go to a CVS or a photomat of some kind and have them printed because they're already the correct size and just cut them. That's the alternative. But I thought the easy way was let them print them for me and send them to me. And, things happen. Pivot, change it up. Then you need a letter of purpose. Why do you want to come to France and how do you plan to support yourself? It's the cover letter. It's a cover letter for all of the support that you're about to share with them. A commitment not to work. It's a specific letter that it's not typed, handwritten, that you sign, where you promise not to work at all in any kind of way while you're in France. And then you have to have 3 months of financial statements that show the proof of funds that are going to allow you to support yourself.
And this was fun for us.
This was fun for us because we did not have that.
Yeah.
We had just sold our house and all we could show was 3 months of statements that did not have enough funds in them to be able to support yourself.
So to that point, they just want to know the story of how you're going to have access to your funds and how you're going to continue to have funds after you get there.
So keeping that in mind, keep that simplicity in mind. Everybody's situation is different, which is why I believe France visas is their list of documents that you need. They leave it vague. A lot of people I've read are like, but it's vague and I don't know. They do that to benefit you, actually, to explain that. Just tell your story. As long as you can show that you can financially support yourself, that's what they're looking for. So just tell your story. And so what we did was we actually showed the final document of the sale of our home that showed how much money we were receiving. And then we showed them by screenshots where all the money had gone and where it was sitting and how it was accessible to us. That was another important fact. They need to know that it's accessible to you, not in some CD somewhere, something that you can just
take out tomorrow, not wait, a week to get your money.
That was very important. And then the proof of accommodation. They need at least 3 months that because they know that you're going to probably go and maybe look to purchase a home or to get
try and find a rental,
find a longer rental. And so they're only looking for 3 months of accommodations. That could be a booking.com, an Airbnb, or even a hotel. I've read that a lot of people book 3 different places. We just booked one for 3 months. You could also book it and cancel them if need be. Like do the ones that are cancelable. So if you are coming out here and you just haven't secured a rental yet, but you might, you can still use the 3 months of wherever you rented for the visa. And then when you get there, you cancel what you need to cancel. And it works out just fine. They did accept Airbnb, and I've heard they accept hotels and booking.com. And then health insurance. You need to be covered. And there's a specific specifications, I should say. It's not travel insurance. And more importantly, it needs to include repatriation back to the US. And we went with a company called Mondosur, and I believe it was 936 euros for the year for both of us. Not just one of us, for both of us.
Which was pretty good compared to some of the ones that we were looking at.
I brought along additional stuff like copies of our driver licenses and our marriage certificate, just in case. I don't recall if they took that from me or not, but I did bring it with.
I don't think they did, but they're really good about going through the documents in order. So if you have your visa documents in the order that they asked you, you'll be able to breeze through your appointment very easily.
Yeah, it was a great appointment.
It's an interesting appointment too. We'll get into that really quick. It's kind of like going into like a little airport screening office. You go into a regular office building.
And you go to reception.
You go to reception. Security buzzes you in to the floor that you're supposed to go up to. You go meet with the security officer that lets you into the room.
It's a third party that collects the documents for the French consulate.
And so it's very official. Yeah. They have a bag scanner. They have a metal detector kind of like doorway that you have to walk through. So you're scanned, you're not frisked, but then you're bag checked. And then you just basically sit in this small little waiting room area.
Waiting for your turn.
And you can see all the other appointments taking place. They're right in front of you. Now, we went to the Boston office one because we're from there.
If you're looking for an office, you're not in one of the main locations where a U.S. passport agency exists, because that's where all these TLS contact offices are located. If you need to fly somewhere, I've heard that some of these other offices, I've just heard people have complaints or that things didn't go well. And we can tell you that Boston was perfect. It was smooth. They were friendly. They were kind. The documentation, we had no issues whatsoever. And you know, Boston's a great city. So if you have to go visit somewhere,
spend the weekend.
Spend the weekend. Make an appointment on a Friday and enjoy the rest of your time there.
Yeah. So once you're in your chair waiting for your appointment, they have an easy board to read to see who's next. You can basically tell who's next. They call you in, you sit down in front of them and basically walk through page by page of their document requests. And you just have to tell the story of any questions that they have, but you'll already have that already in the back of your mind, because with all your document gathering, you're putting together your story for yourself at that point. After that, she basically stamps your approval in a way, and by that I mean she takes your money.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about that.
Takes your money for your UPS
I have it all up here. I'm going to share with everybody.
Oh, she'll tell you the money.
I'm going to share.
Hang on, I'll tell them the end of this. I'll tell you the end of the appointment, then she can tell you how much everything costs. So she basically puts all of your documents into a UPS envelope with a return envelope that you pay for on the spot. She had to pay for hers too when she had her appointment. And then your interview's done. After your interview's done, you go to another room where they take your biometrics, which is just fingerprints and another photograph for their records.
Even though you just gave them a photo.
Right. And so I think that's for the official consulate when they give it in to Washington.
When they submit everything.
But then we're documented for the country with our fingerprints and picture.
And so how much did all of this cost?
So you tell them that.
So the francevisa site, when you go to apply, it'll tell you, you're going to answer questions. It's going to tell you what visa is going to work for the situation that you're letting them know you're in. And ours was going to be €99. They don't charge you on the francevisa site. They're just letting you know. So when we made the appointment at TLS, it was $238 each to make the appointment. You paid on the TLS website to make the appointment. So $238, we're already like
$500.
It was like, whoa, what happened? They used to use a different third-party vendor, and it was maybe like $60 each person. So I was a little surprised, but we wanted to go to France, so we paid. The visa fee ended up coming up, well, with the shipping. So they charge you for shipping. So it was €99 for the francevisa visa, and another $40 for shipping each. We could not figure out how to explain to them that they could just throw both passports back into the same envelope, and then, we could pay less.
You're applying individually, and that's what they're going to do.
And that's how they take it. So that ended up coming up to $153 total for the visa fee and the shipping. And then the photos that we used photo aid for was $16.95 each. And once you arrive in France, if you're getting a VLS-TS visa, the one that's a year or more, you need to validate your visa as soon as you're here so it turns into a resident pass. And that was €200 each, which was $233 each. And so that was a total of $640 per person. So $1,280 for two people to get a visa to stay in France for a year. Well worth it.
Well worth it. Not cheap.
Not cheap, but
understandable.
Understandable and definitely worth it. And more importantly, we were approved in 4 days. I mean, it was just, I think that's just how long it took for the passports to get to DC and then to come back.
Yeah, I wanted to lay that on a little thick, but she just threw away the surprise. But yeah, we once we crossed our fingers, right? And we were like, okay, our passports are no longer with us. Our brand new, beautiful
that's
passports.
the scary part. We should mention that.
Are now gone.
You're giving the passport up, so you're already going, how long is it going to take to get that back? You just feel so empty.
They give you no hint of like, oh, you're a shoo-in, or you're not going to have a problem at all.
No promises.
Don't worry about it. They just be like, all right, you'll hear back from us in 2 to 6 weeks.
Have a great day.
And you're like, 2 to 6 weeks. Understood.
Is that what they said to you, 2 to 6 weeks? I don't remember them giving me a date. I was just hopeful that it would be quick.
Yeah, because I was like, well, how long is this all going to take? And she's like, it depends.
Well, 4 business days. And
4 business days.
The packages, both of them, same day.
We did it on a Friday, and I think on Wednesday or Thursday, we had already received them back.
It was Thursday.
Back in our possession. They were back in our possession.
It was great. It was a moment. You're nervous. You're like, because you don't know whether you're getting the visa or not until you open that envelope and get your passport out.
I think now we were like, yay, plan A is going to work.
First I was like,
no longer plan B.
First I was, can we translate this? Does this say we got the visa? Is that what this says? Yeah, that did switch us up. Now
we were going to France.
Yeah, now we're going to France. As far as the visa, the steps that we took through to get that visa, if you sign up to our newsletter, you'll have access to that. We have a copy of the letters we wrote and everything there as well.
So you can take those examples and make them for your own, and hopefully they'll come in really handy, because we were looking for them and we couldn't find anything that was relatable to us. So we now know that will be very helpful for anybody going forward. And hopefully that'll work for other visas that we might have to do in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. We don't know.
We don't know.
We were set to go. It wasn't the fun part, honestly, putting all of that stuff together.
Not the glorious side of slow traveling. It is definitely the invisible behind the scenes work. But once you do it, you have that peace of mind that everything's kind of in order and you're ready to go. And you don't have to worry about anything once you're overseas. And that's the best feeling.
Sense of security, for sure.